Hey, Ma. How are you? I hope you're doing well and the farm is treating you right. I'm starting to get used to being on my own. The first few days sure were something else, but I think I finally got my footing. I'm starting to feel like a real adventurer now. I realize that being an adventurer is less about searching for something in particular and more about seeing what is out there to explore. So far, I've been spending my days helping and getting to know the folks here in Middle La Noscea, but I'm getting ready to start branching out soon. I can see why Great-Grandpa would have liked this place. It's so busy and there are so many different folks from all around the star who come here. Not to mention how many sailors and sea folk make their home or do business in Middle La Noscea. Oh, speaking of folks and homes, I overheard a woman the other day talking about how she kept buying too many fish since her son left home. She said it was taking her time to get used to an empty nest, she guessed. It made me wonder if you are having trouble adjusting too. Sure hope not, Ma. It's not like I'll be gone forever, and I'll come visit you again soon. I bet it's nice not having to cook for me every night, although I'll admit I do miss your cooking already. Oh, yeah, speaking of cooking, I stopped by this place called the Seven Sage. They have so many exotic spices, all kinds from across the sea, too. I picked you up something special. I think you'll be able to make good use of it. You'll find it in the package that comes with this letter. Any road, I best get going now, Ma. I was told by Berrrlynn, he's that cheery barkeep I told you about, that there's a little place called Summerford Farms outside the city that has been needing hands lately. I figured what with all the experience I have growing up on our farm, maybe I could be of assistance. I'll make sure to write again soon. With love, Systori. As I stepped outside the gate of Middle La Noscea, I was met with a world of rolling hills and sprawling green. Only a foam away, a giant gubu stood, peacefully grazing. I inhaled deeply and stretched my arms above my head before looking to Farran. Well, Farran, are you ready for a new adventure? He cooed, stamping his feet and flapping his wings in response. I laughed. I'll take that as a yes. I climbed upon his back and we were off. I decided to keep a steady pace, admiring the grand expanse that unfolded in front of us. Before the calamity, this area was known as Bearded Rock. I remember I laughed when Great-Grandpa first told me the name. That is, until I learned what Bearded Rock was used for. This here big old rock was where pirates would be executed using crucifixion. And the pirates' main encampment would be built here too, known as Camp Bearded Rock. Legend says that one pirate survived long enough for his beard to grow and wrap all the way around the rock. Hence why the rock was called Bearded Rock. That sure had to be a mighty fine beard, I reckon. When the calamity came, Bearded Rock was destroyed and new rivers formed, causing the soil to become fertile and splitting Lower La Noscea from Middle La Noscea. This area was then named Summerford. Great-Grandpa wrote about Summerford and its farm in his travel logs. Summerford is best known for its expansive orange groves. When the current admiral came to power, one of her first decrees was to clear large swaths of land for Lominsan settlements. Summerford Farms happens to be one of those settlements. Right now it's mainly inhabited by former pirates. After my recent experiences with pirates, I wasn't half as nervous as I would have been. Heck, I was excited to see what these old pirates were like. As I made my way toward the sloping hill of Summerford Farms, I pondered why Great-Grandpa never told me much about pirates. Surely he'd met some in his travels. I reckon Ma warned him not to. She probably thought those kinds of stories would scare me when I was a cub. I reckon she was right. As I made my way up the pathway, I could hear voices growing louder up ahead. Crossing the threshold, I was greeted by a raucous group of people, cheering on two tall, rogan men who were shouting taunts at each other. I couldn't tell what it was all about, but I knew I did not want to get involved. Instead, I decided to seek out anyone who looked official and question how I could be of service. Following the pathway up, I found the Aetheryte. As I approached, I could hear a woman's voice that sounded like she was in need of a little help. She kinda sounded like when Ma would be scolding me and Grandpa when we spent too much time fishing. Behind the building, I found the woman who was shouting. She was dressed in a uniform unlike the others down the hill, so I reckoned she had to be somebody important. Towards the side of the building, two men were busy stacking a pile of firewood. I dismounted and told Farran to stay. Stepping toward her, I gave a warm smile. "Pardon me, ma'am, but it sounds like you could use some help." Summerford Farms bears the charge of the Admiral's Settlement Initiative. We are rewarded handsomely to brave new frontiers. Yet, if we fail to fulfill our part of the bargain, the grant will be withdrawn. In spite of this, the washed-up pirates elect to laze their days away. I was surprised to hear this. You'd think after all they went through to get a place of their own, pirates would be more willing to help out. If only Ma were here, these pirates wouldn't know the meaning of lazy. There is still time. We need only clear away the rocks and debris for the area to be deemed settled. If you are willing to help, you'll find a shovel outside that hut on the hillside. Worry not, ma'am. I'll have those rocks cleared in no time. I gave her a reassuring nod and went off to find this shovel. Back on the farm, prepping soil was all in a day's work. This task would be easy enough to do. Although I had to admit, if I'd been told I'd be doing farm work before I started this adventure, I would have thought it a funny joke. I laughed about this as I grabbed up the shovel. From my vantage point up on the hill, I could see just about all of the city of Middle La Noscea. The white limestone reflecting the sunlight against the azure canvas of the sky took my breath away. I still couldn't believe I was actually out on my own real adventure. As I sat upon Farran's back, I glanced about, wondering which direction to start searching. Just then, a dancing shimmer caught my eye. I saw a collection of bottles a mere foam away. I was shocked by the amount of bottles that had gathered in one place. Hopefully, this wasn't the work of lazy pirates, and these bottles were just remnants from what came before. I shook my head and set about cleaning them up. As we walked over the field, I was reminded of the wide open plains of home. When I was younger, the neighboring families' children and I would hide in the tall grasses and spring out at unsuspecting folk what would pass us. We got Ma good a few times, but Great-Grandpa always seemed to know when we were coming. He'd turn around just as we were about to jump and chase us deep into the grass. As I ran past happily frolicking Mandragora, I wondered if they played games too. Maybe they liked to spook unsuspecting passers-by as well. Moving deeper into the field, I suddenly came face to face with a pack of scaly winged fiends. I gasped and braced myself, one hand upon my grimoire. They reminded me of dragons, like in the stories Great-Grandpa would tell me, except, well, miniature versions of them, I guess. I realized they did not seem the least bit interested in making a meal out of me. I decided it was best to give them a wide berth. Farran and I finished our task quickly and made our way back up the hill to Summerford Farms. I was happy to find the woman was still standing where we left her. Howdy, ma'am. I've cleared the way for you. I hope it helped some. You've certainly proven you are not one to let obstacles stand in your path. If only these supposedly pioneering pirates were half as industrious as you. Expanding borders is all well and good, but the Admiral ought to know rugged frontiers can't be settled by layabouts. I gave her a sympathetic smile and thanked her for the reward. The day was still young, so I decided to see who I could help next. I walked back towards the Aetheryte. I noticed a Rogadin man muttering to himself as he picked oranges from a nearby tree. If there was one thing I knew, muttering angrily to yourself was usually a good sign. You could use a helping hand. I decided to approach and see if I could be of service. Howdy, sir. I couldn't help but notice you seemed to be in distress. The Rogadin man stopped picking at the tree and looked down at me with a deep scowl. Bah, I can't even rely on those rotten pirates to pick these ripe oranges. Yet if I leave them a day longer, they're like to fall from the boughs. Mayhap you could grab a few for me. You're not afraid of a pesky hornet or two, are you? Hornets? I'd had plenty of run-ins with those nasty buggers on the farm. The first time I came across them, I thought I was a goner. I was so stung up by the time they laid off that Ma told me I looked like her wore-out pincushion. I shook off the memory and gave the man a confident grin. Lucky for me, I'd grown much better at fending for myself since then. The smell of citrus in the air made my mouth water as I entered the orchard. It didn't take me long to spot some oranges within my reach. They were round, fat with juice, and gleaming like golden jewels in the midday sun. I suppressed my desire to start eating them then and there and got to work picking. I was so distracted by my citrus daydreams that I didn't realize a hornet had fallen out of the tree till it was buzzing in my ear. Farran and I made quick work of the hornet. A special sort of pride grew within me at how easily it was taken care of. You sure would be proud, I thought to myself as I hurried to collect the last of the oranges. Made my way back to the grumpy Rogadin. Luckily, he hadn't moved far, and unfortunately, it didn't seem like his mood had improved any either. Yet, as I approached, his expression changed. Ah, ripe to perfection. How sweet it is. He took the oranges, setting them beside himself. As he handed me a bag with some coins in it, he heatedly spat. That lackadaisical lot of retired pirates comes down with scurvy. It'd serve them right. It goes to show you can't teach an old sea dog new tricks. You'd think the Admiral would know that. Well, he was happy for a moment at least. I was just wondering where I should search next when a loud sound shook me to my core. While I ate my lunch, I reflected on all the people I'd met so far. When I was in Middle La Noscea, everyone I met seemed grateful for what Admiral Merwin was doing. Even if they had to change how they did things, they didn't seem upset with her and were willing to put in the work to keep things that way. Yet out in Summerford Farms, Admiral Merwin's command seemed to cause more stress than anything. I guess some pirates just don't want to be told what to do. I wondered if it would always be this way. Conflicted with some people doing more work than others. I guess that's really just the way it is everywhere. I wondered what other conflicts I'd come across as I made my way around Eorzea. I sure hoped I could help make things easier for everyone. I muddled over this thought for a while as I finished my lunch. The sun was still shining bright as could be, so I decided to head back up the hill to Summerford Farms to see if I couldn't help with anything else. That grumbling Rogadin was still out by his tree, looking just as upset as before. Maybe his pirates still didn't show up. I approached him with my most cheerful smile. "Howdy again, sir. Was there anything else you needed help with?" The man looked from the orange in his hand to me with a thoughtful expression before he spoke. "La Noscea orange nectar is sweet, but rest assured it's paid for in sweat. If we could only eradicate some 5 puck hatchlings, it would save us from having to do nature's work." I waited a moment to see if he had anything else to say, but he went about his pruning as if I wasn't still standing there. Aye, sir. I'll see what I can do." What an odd fella. Although I knew it wasn't right to judge. Maybe he just didn't know how to talk to strangers, and he was awful upset by those pirates. That must be what's causing him distraction, surely. I wasn't sure what a puck or a puckling was, but I had a sneaking suspicion. I decided to follow my hunch and do some quick investigating. Just as I suspected, it was those tiny dragons I had run into earlier what was eating all the bees. It wasn't hard to find them again. They hadn't wandered too far from where I had first seen them. I felt a little sorry to have to kill them, but that's just how life goes sometimes, I suppose. Like the rats back on the farm, or slaying the sheep to make a meal. We needed to kill things to feed other things, or to stop other things from being killed. I remember when Great-Grandpa first explained this to me. A jackal had gotten into our farm and maimed one of our chocobos. Great-Grandpa said now that it had a taste for chocobo, it would come back for more, so he had to hunt it down. I cried then, but I understood it now. Once the deed was done, I made my way back up the hill. This time, he gave me a funny little smile as I approached. "The buzz of the wind tells me you've done the deed. The only pests plaguing my orchard are those woeful whelps out of water. If only you could rid me of the parasitic pirates as you did the pesky pucks." He gave me a potion for my troubles and said not another word. What an odd fella, I thought as I walked away. I was starting to feel tuckered out. It felt like I was back at the farm out in the sun all day. I figured it was about time I got back to the inn for the night to rest up and be fresh for tomorrow. Farran and I were just about to cross the threshold into the plains when someone called out to me. "Ahoy there! You're an adventurer, aren't you?" I turned and looked, only to see another Rogadin man under another orange tree. As I walked over to him, I silently hoped he'd be in a better mood than the other one. "If you're headed to Tiller's Rest, I've a favor to ask of you. The pirates have been away from sea for too long, and their broken hearts turned to bloodshed for solace. A full supply of medicine lasts barely a week. If you could buy a high potion and take it up to Loaf, you may well save some lives." I was shocked to hear that the pirates would do such a thing. I knew they could be a little more physical than the average person, but I didn't think they'd go so far as to hurt each other out of sadness. I'd come prepared for my travels with a high potion in my bag, so I decided to head right on over to Tiller's Rest before I called it a night. As Farran and I made the way over the gentle slopes and undulations of the La Noscean plains, I couldn't help but wonder why the pirates would turn to harming each other. Even in my saddest moments, I never thought I'd want to cause somebody to bleed. I reckoned their sorrow had to run real deep to move them in such a way. I hoped I never felt something that painful. Great-Grandpa always taught me to embrace my pain and sadness. He'd say that pain was meant to be felt. It let us know we were still alive. But he also said not to hold on to it so long that it broke out of you and caused damage. I didn't understand what he meant by that, but I reckon what these pirates were doing were as good an example as any. I hope they could find a solution to their sorrows soon. The sun was almost below the horizon as I came upon Tiller's Rest. It was marked by a small fenced-in field and a modest shed. A wagon sat on one side of the building, and 2 Rogadan men stood outside. I approached and gave the men a warm greeting. "Howdy, sir. I heard you might be needing a hot potion." The Rogadan's brow stitched tightly in frustration, and he let out a sigh that carried the weight of his anguish. "I'm plumb out of options. Any sorry sufferer knocking on my door may as well be knocking on Thal's. All I can offer him is a prayer." I took a step backwards, shocked to hear how bad it truly was. "Were I a God-fearing man, I'd say you were heaven-sent. After the dust settles from the next pirate brawl, some sorry soul will owe you his lousy life. I pity the poor fish out of water. At first I thought the fights were just to kill time, but now I believe some truly have a death wish. There's naught that can be done about that. We can't make them want to live. All we can do is hope they learn to love the land." I bowed my head for a moment, sending a prayer to Limlayan in their honor, and to Oshan too, for good measure. Perhaps they could work together to care for these pirates and soothe their weary souls. As I left Tiller's Rest and made the trip back towards Libza, I was consumed by exhaustion. I was wore slap out from the work I had done, that was true. But this specific weariness came from uncertainty. I wanted to help the pirates to find peace. But what could I do? Like the man at Tiller's Rest said, we couldn't force them to love the land. Had Great-Grandpa encountered this feeling before, I wondered what he would do about it. I wished he were still alive to be able to ask. These thoughts clung to me for the rest of the night, till I fell asleep. The next morning, Farran and I decided to take a walk out to view the sky lift. This funny-looking structure was built after the 7th Umbral Calamity left a deep chasm in the middle of La Noscea. Its main purpose is to connect trade to other cities, such as Wine Port and Camp Bronze Lake. The skylift cuts a striking figure over the fields of La Noscea, and I wanted to get a better view of it up close. The morning was clear and calm, and the sun was already beaming down as we made our way to the structure. My footsteps thunked quietly along the wooden planks as we stepped, Farran's long claws tapping a steady beat beside me. As I stepped to the lowest level, I gave a Rogadan trader a wave. Before noticing a few folks on the dock who looked like they may need some help, a mustachioed Lalafell dressed in red was standing before 2 large pots bigger than he was and muttering sharply to himself. "Look sharp, laddie. I got a job for you. We don't got much time, so listen close. Today I got me too many fish and not enough water sprite cores to keep 'em cool. You see me problem?" "Aye, sir, that's quite the conundrum." "Now I can't be delivering crates of rotted fish, so I need you to head over yonder and dance with them dripping sprites till you've collected 3 of the chili essences. Ye do realize I don't want ye to actually dance with them, right?" I gave him a big smile and a thumbs up. "Of course, sir. I'll have your cores back to you in a jiffy." It weren't hard to find the water sprites. What marvels the world holds. These creatures looked just like floating balls of water that danced above the grasses of the plains. Here you are, sir. 3 water sprite cores. He looked to me in surprise and then impatiently outstretched his hands. Ye back already? Don't keep me waiting now. Let's see those cores. He took them from me and examined them for a moment before giving a nod. Aye, laddie, you done well. That ought to keep the catch fresh and me customers happy. There's a whole mess of delivery companies what make use of the skylift. You slip up one time and some bastard's liable to steal your business. It really was cutthroat out here. I guess everybody was just trying to make a living for themselves. I didn't realize how much the calamity had impacted everything. You've shown yourself to be a useful bloke. What say ye to doing me another favor? We've been having a wee problem with buzzards swooping down and snatching cargo from the wagons that are traveling the road to the De Level checkpoint. Most days, them feathered hellions stay well enough away, but it seems they can't resist a wagon what's loaded with meat. Well, I say we make use of that weakness to lure the greedy buggers into a trap. I took the bag with a grimace before turning back to the man and giving a reassuring smile. No worries, sir. I'll take care of these pesky buzzards for you, lickety-split. Farran and I crossed the plains quickly. As I closed in on the area the trader told me to go to, my heart sank a little. A towering nest stood beneath a tree, shaded from the direct rays of the sun. I was relieved to find that there were no chicks present, but it didn't do much for the sting. These creatures were just doing what they could against the changes caused by the calamity. We all needed to adjust, it seemed. I felt blessed to have lived on the farm with Ma and Great-Grandpa, where we didn't face nearly as much trouble as other folks. Granted, I couldn't really remember much from when the calamity happened or the years directly after, but I know that even now, Ma was handling things all right. Didn't get your eyes picked out, did you? Them buzzards be a nasty lot. But the last wagon made it through with nary a morsel lost, so I'd say you've plucked enough of their thieving hides to secure the route. You have me thanks, lad. I make most of me coin hauling foodstuffs, and I'd be bedding down the gutter within the week if it weren't for your help. Seems even the scavengers are finding the pickings scarce since the calamity hit. Otherwise you'd never see 'em trying, aught so bored. Fortune did a favor worth spit this time, though, eh? Not this time. I chuckled along with him. As I turned to climb upon Farran's back, a voice carried to us from the end of the pier. Oh, for the love of the lion, not again! The leather's ripped bloody shreds! Curious, I approached the frustrated Mikote. I couldn't see what leather she was talking about, but to me, it sounded like she could use some help. Ma'am, are you having trouble with your trousers? I ventured. No, there's not a rye with me breeches, you cheeky sod. I gave her a sheepish grin. Apologies, ma'am. I didn't mean offense. May I ask what's troubling you? It's the megala crabs. They've been out the balloon envelopes I left out to dry on the rocks. Those hellspawn snippers think they found a squid or something and set to nibbling. Less balloons in the air means less cargo getting lifted, and that don't sit too well with me. You looking for a quick job? How about you crack a few shells before you head off on your way? If you could put down 5 or so of those buggers, that ought to do for now. Crabs, ma'am? No worries. I've run into a few already, and I'll gladly take care of a few more for you. I thumped my grimoire at my side reassuringly and then climbed upon Farran's back. As we rode to find some big old crabs, I mused over what the Mikote said. Balloons? That was clever. I'd have to write home to Ma and tell her about that. I bet she'll try to find a way to implement them on the farm. We made quick work of the megalo crabs. They were the biggest darned crabs I had ever seen. She said they were snipping the balloons on the ground, but I couldn't help but wonder if they done snapped them up mid-air. At least they weren't too intimidating. At least not for Farran and me. You take care of them snippers. Good bloody riddance. Nice work there, lad. It won't be long before a new crew of crabs comes sliding in to claim that territory, and our loads just keep getting heavier, what with all the rebuilding going on. If I don't want to be buried under a mountain of crates, I'd best think of a more lasting solution to this snipper problem. Call on me again anytime, man. I hope you can find a solution soon. I took the coins she offered and slipped them into my purse before climbing aboard Farran again. As we left the skylift, I decided that for the rest of the day, Farran and I were going to spend some time together. Since we'd left home, he'd been spending most of his time in the stable, and I felt bad for neglecting him. I remember the day Great-Grandpa brought him to the farm. He said he got him from a trader on one of his fishing trips. He told me he named him Farran because he knew we would go on a great journey together someday. And once I had won him over with a few carrots, we were friends. From that point on, Farran followed me all over the farm. We'd spend hours running all over the aisle, helping the neighbors and exploring the forest. Even when I'd go fishing, he'd stay close. I don't think we've ever spent more than a day apart. Farran was grateful for the chance to explore. We dashed up and down the plains, weaving through flocks of sheep and giving wide berths to the peaceful goobos. As we ran further to the south, I noticed a large structure in the distance. Curiosity got the best of me, so I decided Farran and I would take a gander and see what it was for. As we walked up the hill, I realized it was some kind of guard post. Aha, I thought to myself. This must be the Lathagran checkpoint. This post was set up by the Maelstrom to keep an eye on the Lathagran East Road back in the day. But what with everyone stretched thin, fixing things after the calamity, it's left to the Yellowjackets to attend to. As I looked at the gigantic stone structure, I wondered what lay beyond. Mayhaps that would be our next venture. I noticed the eyes of the guards on me and gave them a warm greeting. Hello there. I was just wondering what this great structure was. I'm an adventurer of sorts, you see, and I'm exploring the great lands of Eorzea, I stated proudly, patting Farran in gentle reassurance. I climbed from his back and stepped toward the taller of the guards. More and more travelers pass through these gates bloodied and bruised each day. They tell me the Yarzons harry them at the Rogue. It pains me to do nothing, but we need every man we have just to hold the garrison. You could do us all a great service were you to thin the Yarzon population for us. If you could clear out, say, 3 of the nests, we'd all be in your debt. Oh my, I will see what I can do for you. I gave him a nod and hopped back on Farran. We made our way quickly down toward the bridge. I paused a moment on the shoreline, surveying the river below. There were some fiends hanging about, skimming the top of the water. They seemed to be searching for insects what would fly about the surface. There, along the rocky shore of the river, sat a tangled web of dry grass and mud, which I reckoned had to be one of the nests the Yellowjacket guard was talking about. I walked down the steep, rocky edge of the riverbed and stepped into the cool water. It came up to my chest and gave me a bit of a shock at the touch. Grabbing up my grimoire, I waded through the water to the nest. It took but a moment to jostle it enough to bring out the Yarzons. They were giant and long-legged, towering easily over Farran, yet we made quick work of the task. I was starting to get used to these extermination jobs. After clearing out the riverbed, Farran and I made our way back over to the guards. The deed is done. Those Yarzons won't be bothering anybody anymore, I proclaimed proudly, playfully punching the air for emphasis.
Ah, so you did for the Violkin. Every passer through owes you a debt of gratitude. One, the Maelstrom would defend themselves had they the means. The fleet is spread too thin, which is why the Yellow Jackets have been called in. But our numbers are hardly inexhaustible, and your help goes a long way towards preserving the peace.
Of course, sir. I'm just happy to be of help. If ever you need to, call on me anytime. I took the coin he offered and then hopped on Farran's back once more. The sun was just starting to set, and I decided it was time we got back. It had been a long day for Farran and me both, and I was starting to feel mighty tired. Later on, as I sat at my desk, I reflected on my adventures the last 2 days. Even though we didn't venture outside of the La Noscean plains, starting to see why Great-Grandpa loved going on his fishing trips so much. Already in but 1 week, I'd met so many different people from different backgrounds and helped them with their troubles. I grabbed up my quill, stood up, and walked to the map on the wall. Carefully, I put a small mark on Limsa Limitza and another on the fields of Lower La Noscea before taking a step back to admire my handiwork. I decided that tomorrow Farran and I would move on, heading through the Lithagran checkpoint. From there, who knew what adventures awaited us? All I knew was that I couldn't wait to find them.